Our purpose behind the webinar is to provide individuals with a platform to identify their vulnerable spots, gain understanding, focus on essential aspects, improve their quality, attitude, and confidence. The webinar will include discussions, encouragement, and a question and answer session with a speaker on a very interesting theme, that is, cracking interviews in private equity and investment banking. All of you are requested to keep your mics on mute throughout the webinar to prevent any disturbance to the speaker. You can put your queries in the chat box. There will be a 15 minutes question and answer session towards the end of the webinar in order to address your queries. So let us welcome our speaker, CA Divyansh Jain, an alumnus of SRCC, an All India rank of 10 in CA finals, and an incoming private equity analyst at Blackstone. Thank you for joining. We are very curious to know your knowledge and experience. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot for the welcome. I think a few years back, I graduated in 2015, and in my college life, I was a part of a lot of organizing sessions where I was organizing speaker sessions for our fellow students. And I never thought after 5 years of graduating, I would get an opportunity to come back as a speaker and to interact with my fellow friends. So thanks a lot. I think without wasting time, I think we should just start with the session, and I hope it's worth your time. Thank you. So as we see, the topic is to how to crack interviews for investment banking and private equity. So there is no one cutthroat formula that you can apply, but this is just out of my experience over the years that have formulated some tips and put them all together that can actually help you. And we would go through my tips and tricks, and then after that, we'll just have a Q&A session. So for agenda for our discussion would be, we'd start with the anatomy of an interview, about the structure. Then we would discuss what all we could do as a pre-interview prep. We would look at what are the technical skills that we need. Then we would look at some of the HR skills that are very important that we normally underestimate but can create a big impact. And then we would look at how we can improve our content, and then we'll have a Q&A. So for any interview in finance, I think we start with what we do before the interview, and everything that we say in the interview depends on this prep. Then the interview starts with the interviewer introducing himself or herself, and then you start with your introduction. Then there's a background drill down about what you say about yourself during your introduction, and the interview would ask you some more questions about your background. Then there's a technical question / case study that they could ask you, and this is something that actually varies from interviewer to interviewer. Then there's some HR questions. And then this is the format that the interview would end the interview with. Do you have any question for us? So we start with the pre-interview prep. I think the most important thing for anyone is to find out everything about the firm that you're interviewing and also about the interviewee. So sometimes what happens is that I often think it's advisable to go to the LinkedIn profile of your interviewer, because once it happened that I knew that someone had interned in an oil and gas project. And since in my background, I had also worked in the oil and gas team at Deutsche, I knew that he would probably ask me a lot of questions on oil and gas. So I improved my research on oil and gas, what are the current trends, and that actually helped me. Again, at the same time, you should also go through the annual report of the companies. Let's say if you're interviewing for a private equity firm, so they invest in a lot of companies. So it's advisable that you go through all the companies, you go through the annual report of all these companies, because that'll give you the insights or the latest happenings, the trends about the management. So you can actually, it can help you in the interview process. It helps you answer the question and helps you connect with the interviewer better. This is advisable for any finance interview. It is very important for you to suit up. For girls, I think the range of options in terms of what you wear are definitely more. And I'm not expert in terms of what is the appropriate formal attire for girls, but I think wearing a jacket is always a safe option. So, and also for men, I think I know it is a trend today, these days to keep a stubble, but clean shaven is always preferred in any investment banking job. So when I was working at Deutsche in London, my feedback after 3 months, so I asked them how was I to my vice president, and he said that your work is very good, your communication is very good, you have a great attitude, everything's fine. Just one problem, Divyansh, that sometimes you are not perfectly clean shaven. And I was like, I didn't know it was so important, but that is actually the case. And even if you see a movie called Margin Call based on the 2008 housing bubble crisis, you see the MD of an investment bank, after knowing the crisis, he's pulling on all-nighter in the office but 7 a.m. in the morning after an all night of work, the first thing he does is goes and shaves. So that is just the trend of banking and finance that is there in the industry globally. So it's very important how you dress up, and you have to be completely neat and clean. Again, for an interview, I really believe that it is very important for you to be very fresh and very alert. So there was an interview where I was asked to do multiplications of 3-digit numbers, and I could do it, but it's just that I was not willing to. It was 9 a.m. in the morning and I was not fresh. So a coffee really helps. And after that, I swore to an oath that I will always have a coffee before an interview, because you have to be at your mental best. You cannot be lazy. Coffee worked for me, but it could be anything. It could be tea, it could be Bonvita for sake, but just make sure you're at your best. So you understand that for any interview, there are over 500 applicants who are eyeing the same position that you are. So in that limited time, you can't be lazy. You can't be complacent that, okay, let's just depend on what the interviewer is asking. You get a very small span of time where you have to impress the interviewer. So let's say today, if I'm a rank holder in CA, I cannot not say that, okay, I won't say, tell the interview. I have to convey to him that, listen, I am a rank holder. It can be anything. Whatever is your asset, you have to convey to the person. Because let's be honest, it's a battle of the fittest, and you have to convey to the interviewer that this is a cutthroat competition, and this is how I'm better than the rest. You can't just be a sweet person and be very calm and complacent. You have to make sure that all your skills are displayed to the interviewer so that it can help you get the job. No, I'm not trying to give relationship advice over here. What I'm trying to say is, in today's time when we are having virtual interviews, it's very important to have a backup internet and a backup laptop, in just in case, let's say you have an internet problem. It will embarrass you if if you just stop the interview midway. So it's important that you keep another setup of backup devices and connections too, so that your interview can continue smoothly. So now when you start with an interview, the first thing that happens is the interviewer would introduce himself or herself. And what you do is basically, this is Mike Ross from Suits. And if anyone who watches Suits, they know that he has a perfect memory. So you need to pay attention to every detail that the interviewer is telling about himself or herself, so that you know that later on you can tweak your answers according to his likings or her likings. So make sure that you pay a lot of attention and do not miss out on information. This is a very important part. Now we come to your introduction, and I'm a big movie buff and a Shah Rukh Khan fan, and I love the introduction of Shah Rukh in this movie, and that's the impact it created. And similarly, your introduction should also be very impactful. You have to start with a bang, because only then the interviewer would be interested in you and would ask you the right questions and consider you as a fit for the organization. So and you can imagine the interviews interviewing like 10 to 15 people a day. So if you are somewhat boring to the person, he would not really be interested in you. So make sure that you start with the bang. When you start introducing yourself, do not talk about your family unless you're asked. Some people say that I have one sibling, this is the school I went to. No, that is not important. You need to talk in simple bullets. Make sure that every point you say is something that impresses the interviewer and is in a very structured form, that I did A, B, and C, and because of these three things, it helped me get here. So that's D. So you can't really speak in paragraph form, and make sure that whatever you're trying to say is conveyed to the interviewer. And at the end, you have to say something very interesting about yourself that stands out. Because come on, like today, let's say an interview comes to SRCC, most of the students would have a very similar introduction, that they did schooling from somewhere and they was part of some society, and then they're trying for this job, they're interested in, let's say, finance. But you need to tell them something very unique that helps you. It can be anything and very different for every person. Someone is very good at tennis, so they can say that I like to play tennis, I'm a state level tennis player, let's say. So in college, I used to do dramatics, so I would definitely convey to the point that I was an actor in the leading annual English production of my college. So it sounds interesting, and it would probably help you. So when I was applying for my consulting job, I had 1 year of investment banking experience, and that I'm pretty sure no one else applying with me had. So I made sure that I leave it with that, so that my follow-up question is that, okay, how was your experience at Deutsche? It does not have to be necessarily something so clear cut about a job or something. It can be that about a hobby also. So I like to read a lot about finance. So in one of the jobs, I just said that I like to trade and I'm interested in things like how to calculate Sensex. So the number that Sensex, say we see 35,000 the value of Sensex. How do you come to that? So I just tell him like that, and the interviewer would make you need to know that the interviewer is smarter than you, and would if you lie or bluff, the interviewer would catch you immediately. So do not lie or bluff. They're smarter than you. So whatever you're trying to say about yourself, make sure you back it with example and be very sure of this. They will ask you about why you think that this is something very special about you. So if I said that, okay, I'm interested in trading, they would ask me what stocks do you trade in and why. So if I don't have an answer, then my interview is over then and there, and it's just a formality that they'll complete it. So if you're saying that, yeah, I can calculate Sensex, in my Deutsche interview, they actually told me, okay, how do you get it? Today's market capital is this much. What number would you arrive at? So I gave that answer, and that actually helped me get brownie points from the interviewer. So do not lie. Definitely do not say anything hyperbolic that is not realistic and you can't justify it. Technicals are very important in finance. And in technicals in finance, we start with the three financial statements, P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow. You need to know every item very well. I mean, there's no shortcut to that. You need to know how each item is linked to the other. And once you get a command over the three statements, you need to know that if there is any transaction, what would be the impact. Let's say I am buying stock. I'm buying either in credit or in cash. So what would be my implications if I'm buying in credit? What would be my implications if I'm buying stock through cash? So these are simple scenarios where they would test you on. Another thing that happens in interviews, especially in private equities, is that they would ask you to build a P&L statement. So they would tell you, let's say I make ice creams, let's build a P&L. So you would have to list out all the items of revenue and all the items of cost. And you would also do not miss out an item. Like let's say you can't miss out on depreciation or interest or tax, because if you miss out on any item of cost, it does not show you in good light. So make sure you're very thorough with the three statement of accounts very well. It's very important to know these ratios. So in profitability, you need to know different kinds of profitability ratios, like let's say return on invested capital, EBITDA margin, net profit margin. You need to know how one is different from the other. When you talk about liquidity ratio, you need to know what is the difference between current ratio and the quick ratio. You need to understand what turnover ratios are, and you need to explain them qualitatively also, that okay, they talk about efficiency. So when you're going through these ratios, also understand the qualitative aspect and how would you compare one company's ratio to another. That okay, let's say I can understand that 20% profit margin is very good, but at the same time there's another company that is 18% profit margin. So it's easy to say that you would go for the company at 20%, but it might happen that the company at a 20% profit margin has a lot of debt. So you would look at the leverage ratios also. So if in an interview they tell you these are the two profit margins, what would you invest? Is your answer should not be that I would invest in this company, but it should be backed with a follow-up question that okay, I would also look at leverage. So be very particular about that. You understand all these ratios very well. Now this is a slide I hope that I had seen in college, because every finance interviews ask these four formulas for sure. First is weighted average cost of capital, that talks about cost of debt and cost of equity and according to the weights in the balance sheet. So you need to understand. Another is enterprise value, that I was asked to me in my IB interviews as well. And enterprise value, there's a formula, but you need to also understand what is the difference between equity value and enterprise value. You can't just talk about the formula, you need to understand what it represents as well. Capital asset pricing model is used to calculate cost of equity. Free cash flow is very important to understand how valuations work. So make sure you know these four formulas very well, and not just the formulas in terms of the mathematical formula, but also the qualitative understanding of these formulas. If you have these four, I mean, the interviewer would know that you are a serious candidate and you would understand finance very well. So valuations are not as important in investment banking as they are in private equity. I think for the base of valuations are discounting cash flow. You need to understand how a DCF model works very well in terms of your concepts of time value of money should be very clear. Your concepts of free cash flow should be very, you need to be very thorough with it. In IB interviews, if you know about DCF, it really helps you, because in investment banking, normally they train you with DCF models once you are on the job. but having a background knowledge will definitely help you get brownie points. The other valuation models like transaction comparables and trading multiples, like something like a ratio of EV by EBITDA or a price earning ratio, you need to understand how these multiples are different and which multiple you would use in which scenario. For different industries you could use different different models. So not for IB but for private equity, these are very important. So different sectors have different models that you apply. So you need to just be more aware about different models as well. I see a lot of people raising hands and asking questions. I think once we are done with the all the slides, I think we'll have a Q&A on session and we can probably take all the questions then. This is a cutthroat question that is asked in all private equity interviews and some IB interviews, that would you invest in a company or not? So they can ask you that there is an oil and gas company or there is a FMCG company, would you invest in it or not? And then you need to apply the consulting approach of asking, solving a case study. So people who have interviewed with a consulting firm know that consulting firms normally ask you for a case study. They give you a problem statement and then you ask good questions and they give you insights about the companies and then you solve a problem. So a very similar structured approach definitely helps in private equity interviews as well, where you ask questions about the company and then you develop a hypothesis of whether you should invest in a company or not. And accordingly, for every sector, there can be a different structure of questions to ask, and it's very important to contextualize. So let's say they give you a tractor company. So you would obviously talk about the revenues and costs, but what are the growth drivers? So growth drivers for every company is very different. For a tractor company, let's say what is the most important part? You would definitely say monsoon is very important because it's driven by agriculture. But also another part is in India that most of the agricultural industry is very manual driven. And there's a rate at which automation is happening and farmers are moving from manual processes to automation. And that rate of change would drive demand of tractors. So these are the things where you would have to, these are points that you would need to say, and you can't have a structured model that, okay, this is, if someone asks me whether to invest or not, I would just ask these 4 questions. For every company, you would have to tweak the questions you ask. And that will actually help you impress the interviewer. This is something I don't like at all, but the guesstimates are very common in IB as well as PE interviews, even for consulting interviews. They could ask you anything and everything. They could ask you, like, let's say in this room, how many dice cubes can you fill it with? So you would have to take out the volume of the room, which is length into breadth into height of the room. And then you would have to take out the volume of a small dice again. And with the cube, the volume of the room, you would have to divide that with the volume of the cube, and then you'll get a number. Over here, they are more concerned with the approach you take rather than the numbers. So you take easy numbers as assumptions, but make sure you don't make a math error, because then it could lead that you cannot do math very well, and that does not show you in good light. So I am not a fan of guesstimates, and but the best way out to help yourself is to practice a lot of guesstimates. So I was asked this question: what is the valuation of Uber, and also how many rides does Uber do in a day in India? So you, on the first thing you do is tell the interviewer, I need a minute to think, and you take a minute to structure your thoughts about what is the approach you would take. Do not start answering immediately. Take a step back and then form a model in your head, use your pen and paper, and then start solving it with the interviewer. And they would be concerned about how you approach, how you think. So, and every approach is different. I have my own thought process. You could have your own thought process, and does not mean I am wrong, you are right, or the other way. It's just that it should be very clear, and all our assumptions should be very fair. Now, you can't really say if you're applying for a finance job that you're not good at math or you're not good at mental maths. There's some interviews who are just math geeks, and they would make sure that they test you on maths, and they could be not just one or once or twice, but they could ask you like 4-5 questions on mental maths. So like I said, they can ask you multiplications, and they would definitely ask you to not use pen and paper, and you just have to look up and do it mentally. They can ask you square roots of numbers and not perfect squares. So you need to do that. I have been asked that. And the worst part are they'll ask you puzzles. You can't really practice puzzles much. Let's say I give you a list of 10 puzzles and you look at them in your interview, you could be asked a puzzle that is completely not related to the puzzles you've practiced. So luck plays a big factor over here. Please pray that you're not asked puzzles, because they actually test your confidence also when they're asking you puzzles. because sometimes they give really tough puzzles that maybe people with our common intellect cannot solve it. But they also see whether you get stressed or you get panicked and you start making other mistakes in other questions also because you messed up with the puzzle. So make sure that if you get a puzzle, be very confident. Don't lose your confidence and try to think with your clear mind. It might, you might just solve it. Hopefully, all the best with that. Uh, it's very important to be likable. And if you answer all the questions correctly and you do all the math and you know about finance, but if you they find you arrogant, or if they find you rude, or if there's something your posture or body language is not something they accept, then mate, you still might not just get the job, because HR is very important. They will test whether you're a good fit in the organization. They will see whether you're a team player or not, because in most organizations you do work in a team. So they would ask you what are your strengths, and do not exaggerate a lot. Say something that you can say back by example. Let's say if you say that I'm good at leadership, so make sure you have something like, okay, I was a post holder in a society and I led a team of say 20, 30 people, and these were the end results. So make sure you talk about all of them. If they ask you what are your weaknesses, and very often they do ask, do not say things like I'm impatient, or I cannot multitask, or I have anger issues. They're not actually asking for your weakness. And you need to play this very smartly. You need to say something that I mean, I would say that, okay, I identified this about myself, then I worked on it and I improved. I won't say, okay, this is a problem in me. You might have weaknesses. All of us have weaknesses. All of us are humans. But you need to be a bit smart about these questions. They will see whether you want this job or when even not. And sometimes, very often, you're applying for 4 or 5 companies, you have targeted one or two as your priority and not the others, but does not mean that to the interviewer you convey that you are my plan B or plan C. For them, you need to see that you will give it all to get that job, and this is your whole soul. You are gone all in for that particular position. And they would test, and they're very smart and identify these things. So make sure you convince the person that you want this very badly. Be likable and charming, because they would work with you, and they don't want to work with someone who appears very boring or dull. You might be very smart, but your personality has to be likable, like I mentioned earlier. And so these are things that actually help. So this is where the soft skills come to play. So please take care of that. In the end, you get to ask a question in the end, and I would always say that it is very important, the question that you ask. At Blackstone, I had nine interviews, and for every interviewer I had a different question prepared to ask in the end. And even if, let's say, I make a mistake in between one of these interviews, it would the question would actually cover up that, because I would end the interview in a high, so the interviewer would think that, okay, yeah, he's actually has given it a lot of thought about the question, and he has a thought process of his own. So and yeah, you would always better to always finish at a high. And I think this picture represents the point that I am trying to prove. Now, the important thing is how do you improve on content, because it's important that you know the answers that the interviewer is trying to ask, and improving on content is not very easy. The easiest way to do is read a lot, and you already know this, and but it's just that you need a lot of motivation every day, and motivation is not a one time process. You need to be motivated on a daily basis, and reading helps. Read about anything and everything. Other than reading, I think what actually differentiates it, if you ask me what is my secret about why things have always fallen for me, I would say I'm a big time extrovert. I talk to a lot of people and I make a lot of friends. I waste time with them, I chill a lot, and because of that, I learn a lot from their experiences. And you can't, learning can never happen in isolation, unfortunately, what we are facing right now during COVID. But what we are doing together right now is a collective learning session for me and you. So these are the steps that you need to take. And I make friends anywhere and everywhere. And once this happened, that I was having a PE interview, and I just called up a friend who worked in a pharmaceutical company, and I understood everything about the pharmaceutical process, the latest trends. Next day in the interview, I got a pharma case and I solved it very well. So it's just that it's very important to talk to people. Also practice a lot of mock interviews with your friends, because you will identify mistakes that you're making and you would not make them again during the actual interview. So make sure you practice a lot of mock interviews, practice your introductions, because you will always have to introduce yourself. And if you practice it, you would know that you would simply structure it better, and you can get a chance to impress and start your interview with a bang. Again, I would say that, like the point that I was mentioning earlier, even you should, even if you want to target one or two companies, apply for 5, 6 places at different interviews, because you would identify your weaknesses and you can work on them. If you make a mistake, please do not defend yourself. Make sure that this is a scenario from Friends. If people have seen Friends, they would understand the context. I hope all of you have seen Friends. But so if you're making a mistake, do not be stubborn, do not refuse, and to accept a mistake, just smile. It's okay, everyone makes mistakes. Do not get nervous, do not panic. And once you make a mistake, just try to cover it up with okay, yeah, I made this, I missed that point, and you're correct, and just tell the interviewer that, yeah, what the point you're trying to make is correct, and move on. There are sometimes that some interviews just want to see whether what's your stress taking capacity. And there have been in times where when I was interviewing at Deutsche, I answered something incorrectly, and the other person said that I was smiling, and the other person said, you made a mistake. I was like, yeah, I understand, my bad. And he said that, you're still smiling. I said, yeah. And he's like, you're not taking this interview, and why don't you, in a very abusive way, he told me, why don't you just get out of the room? And I told him that it's okay. I mean, I didn't think that making the small mistake is that big a deal, and it's a learning process for me. And he was impressed with that because I did not panic, and I identified that he's actually testing my stress taking capacity. I've heard from my friends that once for my friend, I think the interviewer told his resume and just threw it apart. So it's very disrespectful, but you need to understand that why the other person's doing this is actually he's just testing your stress taking capacity. Once I was asked that, why you all India rank 10 in C and why not 1? And I said that, and he said, whether do you have any regret? I said that no, I do not regret it. And then throughout the interview, he was after me that, okay, you're happy with the rank 10, you're not even trying for rank 1 and all of that. And it seemed very irrational. Who would talk like that? But they're just seeing whether I panic or not. So just recognize when the other person's trying to see whether you can handle stress or not. And in your head, I always try to smile. It helps me, it calms me down. And it's like, I know that, okay, he's trying to mess with me. So I'll play along. Sometimes, this guy is very unlucky in every meme that you see on Facebook. There are times when luck will not always be on your side. And despite, I think my recipes, it takes sweat, determination, hard work, and luck to achieve your goals. So you can't always be lucky. There are times, I hope all of you are lucky in every situation, but luck is a very big factor, and sometimes it's not your day. So like I mentioned earlier, I had mentioned to the interviewer at Deutsche that, okay, I know about Sensex. Then I came out, my friend went in and came out with a very upset, sad face. I said, what happened? And he said the interviewer asked him whether you can calculate Sensex, and he had no idea. And then I just silently gulped, because I knew that I was to be blamed for that, because I had prepared for it, but he had not. So after that, it was a bad day for him. He was unlucky because he went after me and he was asked a question that he did not necessarily have to know. But at the same time, that guy went on to another investment banking job, and then he's in a private equity currently. So that one bad day did not really impact his career. And at the end, if you deserve it, you will get it in one way or the other. So do not doubt yourself that, okay, if some things are not working out for you, that you lose hope. Something in the end will work out for you, and do not doubt your potential, and do not give up at all. Please do not give up ever. So no job is definitely out of your league. You might just say that, okay, I'm not qualified enough to get it, or maybe this is the background of people that they hire from, and I do not fit into that cutthroat funnel. So maybe it's no point trying. But I think that's a bad idea, because there's always a first time. I am not trying to show off over here, but I'm just trying to give you an example. Blackstone has been in India since 2006. And in a 15-year history, they have never hired someone who is a CA or a commerce background. And everyone's been from IIT Bombay, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Kanpur in the analyst associate program. And even I could have been like, okay, there's no point applying, because they always have from an IIT background. But after 15 years, this was the first time when they're hiring a chartered accountant in the analyst and associate program. So I did not have that attitude that I will not apply, or maybe that job is out of my league. I had an attitude that it's only fair that I give myself a try. And I think it is very easy for me to select a picture for this slide about how someone can get a job even if he or she does not fit it. I think this picture says it all. I think now we can move towards the Q&As. And I think in the forms that you had, we actually had collected some questions from you, and my friends at SRC Wings of Fire have actually collected some of them that overlap, and we'll try to just look at these questions, and then we can probably take some live Q&As as well. My journey from being a CA to CFA and corporate journey. So I always was interested in finance. In college also, I was the president of finance investment cells. So it was very simple for me that this is where I have to go. My background, I come from a CA family. My father's also a chartered accountant. So CA was always on my bucket list. When I went to college, I got the opportunity. I cleared my IPCC and then I got the opportunity to work at Deutsche. So I could not start my articleship because of that, because I did not want to miss the opportunity of working at an investment bank. 1 year after Deutsche, I realized I had to complete CA. So I came back parallelly. I also completed my CFA levels. And then I did my articleship, completed CA. And then after CA, fortunately, I got a rank. So I was hired by BCG as a consultant. And after 1 year of consulting, I am now moving into private equity, because private equity is like the temple for finance. It's probably the end goal. Every finance graduate would probably want to reach there in the end. So, and that did apply to me. So that's my been my journey. What is actually the work in private equity and IB skills necessary? So the skills that are necessary for these jobs, I think math is very important. Your analytical prowess in terms of understanding financial statements and understanding sectors and industries. And the other thing I would say is very important, you're aware, that's very important. What actually makes a very big difference is marks. Now, this is something that I learned later in life, because earlier when I was in school, I was always a good student, but I never really pressed a lot on academics. I never came first, second, or third in my school in class. But I was always a good student. I used to come in the fifth or sixth in my class. Later on in class 12, this is the first time that everyone works hard. So for my class 12 board exams, I worked hard and I lucked out and got the chance to go to SRCC. And that was a big turning point in my life. So we don't stress out on marks. We say that marks are not important. Your class 10 and 12 marks don't make a difference. And in life, actually, you might do anything. And I hope everyone, irrespective of marks, is successful in life. But if you're applying for these jobs over here, marks do play a role. Even for my CA, I was not eyeing for a rank. My whole approach towards clearing the CA exams was to eliminate every possibility and probability of failing. And that strategy actually helped me get a rank. And that's why BCG hired, because they prefer rank holders. So marks did make a role. So I would say that marks, even for these P and IB jobs, marks are very important. I mean, in terms of today, we talk about mental health and we say that we should not stress out a lot. So I completely advocate that. But having those marks do help you if you're eyeing for something that is very coveted. And 500 people, I mean, let's say there are only 15 or 20 PE jobs that come up every year, because that's the number of PE firms in India. And they hire one or two people every year. And there are thousands of people who want those positions. So marks do make a differentiator. Has CA how the CA qualification course helps to get into these fields? Like if one aims to get into PE and IB, is it worth spending for 5 years of CA course? CA definitely takes a lot of time, and your articleship is of 3 years is a bit long, and I completely agree with that. And but what you I mean, CA itself is a brand in India and it's very respected, and it is worth it if you crack it in the first time. Definitely helps a lot. But sometimes, so the problem with CA is that people who do not clear it in the first or second attempt, they feel they have a morale problem, because it's obviously not very encouraging, and you need to take a call whether on your confidence to clear it. So that is the call that I would take about how CS helped me. CS definitely helped me get this job, and even BCG. So I would always advocate the course. But you need to understand and identify whether you have the skills to clear it. Maybe you're very good at IQ and you can ace at a CAT exam better than, let's say, CA, where the course is very theoretical and you need to memorize a lot. So if you're not be smart but you're not good at memorizing things or at theoretical concepts, then CA might not be for you. Is CA enough to get into IBPE? Why IBs prefer MBA finance over CA? Is it necessary to pursue CFA? I mean, nothing is necessary, and there's no formula, like I said earlier. CFA is the gold standard in the line of finance. I believe CA is tougher than CFA. In my experience, CA was much tougher than CFA. And CFA, it's a good thing to have. It will not make or break your career. But if you want to be in finance and it is recognized internationally, so I think it's safe to say that it's better if you do it. Complete procedure, how to get into IB or PE. I think you need to be in one of the top colleges in the country, and from those colleges you need to get the best jobs. You need to be outperformers in those colleges, and after being outperformers in those colleges, you need to prove that you've done good at work and academics, and then apply to these jobs, and that is how the common approach is. Which work experience helped you score the PE analyst position in Blackstone? My understanding is that PE firms require a lot of prior deal making experience, and I was just wondering if consulting would provide for an avenue to that end. I think my experience at Deutsche and BCG both helped me get this job. And it can never just be one thing, because there are nine interviewers, and nine interviewers would want different things and they would value different things. And it's never one thing, it's a mixture of different things that adds to your personality and your career. So please also explain which skills are required to get opportunity in work in PE. I think I've discussed this as an overlap question. How was your Blackstone interview experience and how did you prepare for it? For Blackstone, we had a written test. I think around 500 people gave the written test, and they shortlisted on the basis of CV and the score of your written test. Then they held interviews. Depending, it was a simple elimination method. If you, let's say, perform bad at two interviews, you get eliminated. If you do well, you get called for more interviews. And overall, I had nine interviews. Some were, I think most of them had a finance case study. Some were more involved in trading. Some wanted to some discussed COVID. Different people added different aspects. No two interviews were the same. I fortunately did decent, I believe, in most of all these interviews, and that is about it. As an investment banker and working as a CA in the industry, I think investment banking and industry are very different career routes. In industry, I think for a chartered accountant, if you're going to industry, there's a tendency of tilting towards accounting roles. Accounting per se never interested me in terms of working in industry. That was never my area that charmed me. But to each his own, because at the end of the day, if you go to an industry and you get go to the CFO track, I think there's nothing like it. It pays like crazy. But at younger levels, I think investment bankers and private equity analysts get paid more at younger levels. As a CA, I think even at BCG, my experience has been great. Even at Deutsche, had not cleared CA by then, but my learnings during my CPT and IPCC definitely helped me. What books can we refer to prepare for finance interviews? I think you need to dig into corporate finance modules. The CFO books for the corporate finance module is helpful. If you go online and you look at books like valuation, like by Damodaran, and you read The Intelligent Investor, these are books that can help you build your concepts on finance. Approach towards the interview and how to prepare it. I think that's what we've been discussing for the last 30 minutes. So I hope I've answered that question. If CA article wants to do industrial training in investment banking in third year of articleship, how should he prepare for that in first 2 years of articleship? Which type of work and field would help him get into CA articleship? I did not do industrial training because I already had Deutsche on my CV. So I think that's why I am not the best person to answer that question. Again, at the same time, what I've seen amongst my friends are that whoever have done industrial training, it's very rigorous, and they have not been able to prepare for their CA finals exams that well. So they have had to defer a term. So you need to do that cost benefit analysis, whether deferring your attempt is worth it, because I would always say getting a rank would help you more get these jobs than having a better articleship experience or an industrial training. What skills and profile do PE and IB? I think we have discussed this. Whether a person who has taken a few attempts in clearing CA can expect an interview call from investment bank or PE firms. I think I would not rule out that having more than one attempt would be a problem, but I think right immediately, let's say you clear a CA and you have multiple attempts, immediately you might not get a call. But if after that you have done something, let's say if you do an MBA post that, or if you probably get a very nice job, maybe not an IB, but in some other field, let's say you go to something like an ITC, if you get that kind of a job, then maybe after that they would value that work experience and that would cover up your multiple attempts. So I would never say that there's a rule that if you have multiple attempts, it will be a problem. I know someone who had multiple attempts in IPCC, then that person cleared final and first attempt and got a good job. So I don't think you should hold yourself for having multiple attempts. Does CA final articleship work help you to gain the knowledge of IB or PE firms? See, articleship is very different for every person, right? Some people get articleship in Big Fours, and sometimes I have had friends in Big Four who said that the articleship experience 3 years they just did vouching and verification. So despite having that brand, they did not have an experience. And sometimes I know a lot of people who did the articleship from a mid-sized firm, and they normally have a tendency to learn more because every 6 months they try to do something different, and their the work authority is better. So in terms of work ex, I would say I don't think it's really matters. I mean, ultimately, the marks that you have and the overall what you do, whether you have an MBA or not, or what job you have after your CA, let's say they value rank. So if you get a rank, I don't think they care much about what experience you had as an article. They know, I mean, in articleship, you don't really get to choose what you do. Do PE firms hire undergraduates? Normally, 99% no. If yes, what? So, I mean, no, the answer is normally they don't hire undergraduates fresh out of college. They do hire undergraduates from the top colleges after good consulting or investment banking experience, yes. But never fresh out of undergrad school. General description of what IB as a profile is actually. Generally, IB is basically corporate finance. You work on leverage buyouts, you work on mergers, you work on raising funds, you work on debt syndication, you work on selling assets of companies, you work on selling companies. So you build a pitch for the present for the company that you want to sell or the asset that you want to sell. You model a lot of assets and what is the value. So these are the basic roles that you do as an investment banking analyst. How to set directions of the interview in a way that the job can be ensured if at all we have deviated from the mainframe, how to bounce back. Example, in case the interview is dragged another direction of say hobby or skill, how to get back to the main JD without losing confidence, and most importantly, how to create that impressive image instantly in the beginning. I think the impressive image in the beginning, I said highlights whatever is the best in your background. Everyone has a different background and do that. If it interviews diverted, I mean, there's little you can do, but I think the answer that you give probably add something to your answer that helps the interviewer divert his question next. So let's say if it's going in a way that you are not comfortable with, either give a dismissive answer that there's nothing follow up to ask, or add an element to your answer that probably is more interesting than the topic that was in his head. Does anyone with only CA qualification get placed in IB firms, or is it necessary to pursue CFA and then only? No, I mean with CA also you can get CFAs preferred. How far is it that companies seek CFA as a requirement? Again, CFA is good to have but not a mandate. What all technical skills are required for IB apart from R programming and financial modeling? What is R programming? I don't know what R programming is, but financial modeling is definitely important. You've hopped quite a bit in terms of industries from banking to consulting to PE. Any smoother path that you recommend for PE to make it up? Yeah, smoother path definitely. Go to the top ITs or get into SRCC, Stephens or LSR. Go from there, join McKinsey, BCG or Bain, and directly get into be an outperformer over there, and then get into a PE firm. That is the best path. I wanted to do CA, but for me, otherwise, that would definitely be the best path, I would say. I think we can do a live Q&A session now. Someone could help me moderate it. I think I see some questions over here. Will a CA be able to rise in the ladder in IBP firm without an MBA? Yes, if you're doing well in your job, I think you can. If you have they'll definitely see whether you are good at networking and you would have the ability to get clients. That is very important. So, yeah.
So, Divyansh, what was your role at Deutsche Bank? Is it a front end role or a back end role, basically?
Right. So at Deutsche, I started in the Mumbai office and I was supporting the Europe, Middle East, Africa oil and gas team. But then, depending on your performance, you get an opportunity to move across if you do well. So, fortunately, I got the chance. I moved to London, and then I was there. And that was a front end role. When I was in London, that was a proper front end role, and it was a great learning experience. I understood the basics of finance and financial modeling and all over there only. I think that is probably the best experience in my life in terms of I haven't had better work experience ever than my time in London.
Some of them are asking about the courses that they can pursue for financial modeling, basically after CA.
I did not really do any course on financial modeling because Deutsche in the first month you do undergo a training and I got that over there. But I think on Unacademy, Udemy, and even on YouTube, I think there are some sessions that are there that you can probably check out on financial modeling. So they would help you understand. I think and there's also a site called Corporate Finance Institute that can help you understand the basics of financial modeling.
So some are asking about M&A during the articleship. Is it helped during the IB interview?
Yeah. If you have a proper mergers and acquisition experience, definitely it can help you because M&A, for an MA, you would understand due diligence, you would understand accounting, plus you would also understand strategy. So these three elements are very important in investment banking. So if you have a proper M&A experience, then that does give you brownie points. I would say you should go for it.
Why did you switch from consulting to private equity? Uh,
I That's a good question actually. So private equity was always my end goal in terms of where I wanted to be in finance. Consulting is consult. So normally I've seen that private equities prefer consultants, and there's some Ps that prefer investment bankers or consultants. So it's like a ladder, and you take one step at a time. And most of the people at Blackstone have had a McKinsey or BCG or a Bain background. So that's why, and also consulting really teaches you how to understand industries and how to solve a problem, and the learning experience as a consultant is I mean, it's probably the best start you can have for a career because it's very valued, and it's not very easy. It's very hard, you're thrown deep into the ocean about solving a problem with the client, and in very uncomfortable situations. I'm a guy with a commerce background, and on my first case, I was for one of the largest steel conglomerates in the country. I was helping them build an integrated control tower, and I had no idea, but I'm doing a digital architecture case in the first month. So it is out of my comfort zone. So that is why I wanted that experience. And for us CAs, normally we have a very cutthroat accounting finance experience, but we're not very good with different digital and technical aspects of the industry. And in today's time, trust me, guys, IITians have a big advantage over us because they understand technicals very well. So and it's a digital world today. Everything is about data architecture and the digital transformation. So that way, BCG really helped me up my game.
okay, okay. So some of them are asking about detailed experience of your interview at Blackstone. So if you can.
Okay, sure. I think, as I mentioned, we had a written test that they tested us on our analytical skills, on our accounting skills, and our mathematical skills. You're not allowed to use a calculator, and also about your industry knowledge, how much you're aware. Because of the habit that I had developed of reading a lot about businesses and sectors, that helped me answer all the questions that were asked about different case studies on all my 9 interviews. There were some interviews that tested me, like I mentioned, about what are the impact of COVID in different industries. They asked me a lot about the different experiences I've had at BCG. So I worked with 4 different companies as clients. So I think each of them drilled down on one. Let's say one of them spoke about the NBFC experience that I had. So the entire NBFC industry were covered the value chain, and then they gave me an example of an NBFC company and asked me whether I would invest in it or not. Similarly, because I had oil and gas experience, some of them drilled down on oil and gas. So for different interviews, I had different experiences. Some of them really drilled on maths, some of them drilled on stress, some of them drilled on HR. But I mean, that was the basic experience that I had.
So how did CA help you, crack in cracking the interviews of private equity firm? Because CA is related to mainly tax and audit. Uh, Although finance is covered, but it is in a very less manner. So doing a CA, should one pursue CA to basically crack into private equity firms?
I would not agree with that completely, that CA covers more of tax or audit, because I think for me, I've done CA and CFA, so I can say this: the SFM course that we have in CA is very comprehensive, and you do a very detailed study of different aspects of corporate finance. So, and I found it tougher than doing CFA as well. So, and I would say the SFM alone is combined CFA all level 1, 2, 3, except the bond market aspect, which is very common in America, and that's why we study it. So I would disagree that CA is about only accounting and tax. Again, because I had a rank that did help me, create that impact. That okay, I'm very studious, and I mean, I could differentiate myself and bring myself up to the other IITians who were competing with me, who had better probably business and industry and operations knowledge than me. But because I'd say most of these companies test you on balance sheet and finance and whether you'd invest this company or not. And as CAs, we do study things like capital asset pricing model and portfolio management very well to answer most of those questions better than them. And also, I would like to add, in the written test that I had, most of the questions were like the costing, the costing paper that we have. So I could solve those questions very quickly compared to my peers at IITs because I had an experience in solving cost problems, which that's why CA did help me a lot. No two thoughts on that.
Some of them are asking if undergraduate degree matters if they do CA or CFA after.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. A lot of people take the approach of going to something like schools of open learning and do not do college, but I think college experience matters a lot, and you should always try to get into a best college, and that does help. Even like I don't think the top consulting firms would hire someone who's done a corresponding course. So college experience matters a lot. Fortunately, I got the chance to go to SRCC, and that's a lifelong asset for me. So I would really say that your undergraduate degree matters a lot. For P is also most, I mean, like 80% of the Ps hire only IITians because that's the undergrad experience that's the most coveted in this country. So yeah,
okay.
undergrad does matter a lot.
Also, can you tell us some websites, although you have mentioned about the books, some websites or newspaper that one should read?
You could I mean, definitely follow Economic Times and Mint, and you could check out VC Circle. You could check out this website called Ken that writes articles in different businesses and industries. You could check these out.
So Tushar is asking again and again that I am in the final year of the graduation pursuing BBE and CFP. I know financial modeling. I'm planning masters in finance abroad next year. So would you suggest going for masters directly after graduation?
Okay, these are, everyone has their own experience and there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to give a strong opinion over here. I don't think Masters of Finance is really helps you add value because once you do a Masters in Finance, after 2, 3 years, again, you might need an MBA because the industry does not recognize Masters of Finance to be a management MBA role. And the positions that are really, there's some positions that are just kept for MBAs. So I would say it's rather just get a good job, do your CFA, and then after that go for an MBA directly rather than going for a master's in finance and then working and then again going for an MBA. That is a route that I would not recommend, but I mean, to each his or her own.
Why did you leave Deutsche Bank to pursue CA once again with a very nominal stipend and
Yeah, that's
uncertainty?
that's actually a very good question. One, like I mentioned earlier, my dad's a CA and he has his own CA practice, so I just had this in my head that I had to complete CA, and uh, maybe some years later in life I might just want to start my own continue and work with my father. So CA was something that's on my bucket list and I had to complete. Second thing is also that I was in the oil and gas team and I was at Deutsche, and oil and gas prices in 2016 were 2015 2016 were at $28 a barrel, and overall the industry was not doing very well. So we were pitching a lot but we were not really getting any deals and we were not getting mandates. So I took a call that I felt that there's something that I needed to complete. I needed to study a bit more, and there's something that I did not know. I did not know what, but there was something that I felt that was missing. And the other thing was that I did not want to restrict myself to oil and gas because I wanted to work with different industries as well. And if I wanted to continue Deutsche, I would just understand oil and gas better, but I would miss out on a lot of other things. And at the age of 21, I would not know what I want to do.
So do you think an MBA makes sense after getting a PE job?
I am looking for that answer myself. Uh, I think, see, private equity is very competitive, and everyone wants it. So it's not an MBA would not help you in the job that you do, but because it's a pyramid, right? Right now in a company, let's say there are 8 analysts, but there are only 2 VP positions. So how to fill that? So over there, an MBA could make a differentiator. Again, today these global firms work with people you can be working with private equity. So let's say Blackstone, it's an American firm. So over there, all the top guys at America are MBAs. So they would want someone as an MBA, someone they've studied with, to be the MD of India, or someone like something like that. So I think, and also today you work globally. So to get that global network, I think an American MBA would definitely help you. Not necessarily American, but a global MBA. So that way, because of the competition, I think MBA is important, not otherwise. But we stay in a country with a population of 1.4 billion, with everyone wanting to earn a lot of money and getting those few positions. So that is why we are studying.
Okay, okay. So Divyansh, do you recommend doing an MBA after CA or basically gain some work experience along with CFA? So which is a better path?
Get some work experience along with CFA, and then take a call whether the career path that you've taken would require an MBA or not.
Okay. So could you please tell us what kind of question one should ask to the interviewer in the end? Like you said, end all the interviews with a Blackstone with a question.
So let's say I'm interviewing at an investment bank. I read something about some news article about the investment bank. So I would ask them, what is your opinion on that? On that, how is that going? Or let's say US is gonna announce something that is going to impact the global economy. I would ask them, what is your opinion on that? Let's say if I see something interesting on their profile on LinkedIn, I would ask them their profile, the experience about that. But I just want to convince them about a point that okay, I've done my homework and come before the interview. So can be anything and everything. Let's say Blackstone's working on a deal right now. So I would ask them, or I could also ask them about something like how do you source deals? How do you, what is the process of whether, I would also ask them sometimes whether an MBA is important or not. Because let's say if they've done an MBA, I would ask them what is the delta that an MBA created. So something like that. But make sure that you're prepared and you never answer that, okay, no, I don't have a question. Don't do that.
I think all the questions are being taken up already. So guys, please fill the feedback form, and thanks Divyansh for taking the session.
Thanks, guys. I hope this was worth your time. At a late.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very interactive and informative session for us. And thank you for giving us your valuable time. Thank you so much, sir.